The Millionaire Fastlane. Crack the Code to Wealth and Leverage for a Lifetime by M.J. Demarco. Chapter 12. The Slow Lane. Why You Aren't Rich. Somebody should tell us right at the start of our lives that we are dying. Then we might live life to the limit, every minute of every day. Do it, I say. Whatever you want to do it now. There are only so many tomorrows. Michael Landon. Exposing slow lane inaptitude. If the slow lane is your get-rich strategy, I can make a likely assumption. You're not rich and you never will be. Wow, how could I be so sure? Simple. The slow lane strategy is rooted in uncontrollable limited leverage, or ULL, pronounced dual. If you need help remembering this important concept, just think. If the slow lane is your plan, you'll never get rich. Uncontrollable limited leverage is the disturbing evidence that proves the slow lane's futility. How do you get rich in the slow lane? You get a great paying job, save money, live frugal, invest in the stock market, and repeat for 50 years. If you mind this strategy into its mathematical constructs, you'll find that the variables that define the plan cannot be controlled nor leveraged. Uncontrollable limited leverage, ULL Part 1. Why is ULL so important? To accumulate financial wealth, you need to attract large sums of money. To attract large sums of money, you need two things: control and leverage. The slow lane has neither, and that truth is exposed when you reverse engineer the strategy into its mathematical equivalent, or its wealth universe. Uncover the mathematics behind the plan, and you uncover its weakness. When the slow lane is deconstructed, you find two variables: the primary income source, which defines how income is earned, and the wealth accelerator, which defines how wealth is accumulated. The slow laner's primary income source comes from a job, while the wealth acceleration vehicle comes from market investments like 401ks and mutual funds. Put it together and you arrive at the slow laner's wealth equation. Wealth equal job, the primary income source, plus market investments, the wealth accelerator. Under this plan, income from a job funds both lifestyle and market investments. However, to uncover the prohibitive ULL within the plan, we have to factor these variables further, starting with the job variable. The warden of wealth, intrinsic value. How is money earned in a job? Intrinsic value. Intrinsic value is determined by the marketplace and is the price at which you can trade your time for money. Intrinsic value is what you earn working a job. How much is someone willing to pay you for what you offer to society? Intrinsic value is measured in units of time, either hourly or annually. If you're paid $10 per hour to flip burgers at the neighborhood grill, your intrinsic value is $10 per hour. If you are an accountant and earn a $120,000 annual salary, your intrinsic value is $120,000 per year. Job, your intrinsic value is equal to hourly rate of pay times the hours worked, or job, your intrinsic value is equal to your annual salary. Notice that intrinsic value is measured in units of time. This time attachment introduces the slow lane's first punitive element of wealth creation. Can you control time? Can you leverage time? You can't. Your time is limited to 24 hours of exchange. If you earn $200 per hour, you can't miraculously demand to work 400 hours in one day. If you earn $50,000 per year, you can't miraculously demand to work 400 years in your life. Time has no leverage. For the hourly worker, your maximum upper limit is 24 hours. And guess what? There's nothing you can do to change this limit. In theory, you can trade 24 hours of your day for income, but you can't trade more. Of course, working 24 hours a day is humanly impossible, so 8 to 12 hours per day are traded. For the salaried worker, the prohibition is the same. You can't work more years than your normal life expectancy. What is the upper limit of this exchange? 40, 50 years? In all of recorded history, no human has ever worked 10,000 years of his life or her life. Whether you're paid hourly or annually, it doesn't matter. You can't leverage time. Consider this. Is 12 a large number? Or 50? Are these numbers predisposed to create millionaires? They aren't, and it exposes why the mathematics of a job are wealth punitive. Your time is limited to small numbers and cannot be leveraged. Hours worked or annual salary are mathematically inept because they are based on time measurements that cannot be controlled or manipulated. Mathematics doesn't lie. 12 will always be less than 10 million. If leverage is limited, so is wealth creation. Small numbers do not make millionaires. Behind limited leverage is another corrosive wealth killer: no control. Can you control your employer? Can you control your salary? Can you control the economy? Can you earn $50,000 one year and next year bank 50 millions? Can you control anything about your job, including your measly 4% pay raise? You might think you can by job hopping, but you can't. Control is weak, if not absent. Compound interest, what they don't tell you. The second variable in the slow lane wealth equation is the primary wealth accelerator, which comes from market investments like mutual funds, 401ks, and other traditional investments touted by gurus and financial advisors. These investments use the financial strategy known as compound interest, which is a mathematical construct that outlines the power of interest accumulation over great periods of time. The fundamental cell of compound interest is the old guru swan song regurgitated ad nauseam. $10,000 invested today will be worth gazillions in 40 years. Invest $250 a month for 50 years and you will retire rich. Used correctly, compound interest is a powerful ally to wealth. Used for slow lane purposes, and it dredges the wealth road trip to a crawl. Why? Again, the puzzle is solved if you exploit the math. The answer plays similar to why a job won't make you rich. Time. Wealth creation via compound interest requires the passing of time and lots of it. Like a job, compound interest or market investments such as mutual funds and 401ks can't be leveraged, nor can they be controlled. They rely on deficient math to create wealth. In as much as the income you make in a job is measured in an hourly rate or an annual salary, the wealth acceleration process of compound interest is also measured in time, years, multiplied by a yearly yield. Let's again review the physics, the mathematical formula for the slow lane pathology to wealth. Wealth equal job plus market investments, or factored, wealth equal intrinsic value yearly plus compound interest yearly. Factored further, wealth is equal time times hourly or salaried value plus invested sum times 1 plus yield to the power of time. Like a job, the flaw in compound interest lies in the same mathematical restrictions, in which numbers work against you instead of for you. Take a look at this chart, which highlights the effect of compound interest and that $10,000 investment. A slow lane guru preaches that a $10,000 investment grown at 15% will be worth over $2.5 million in 40 years. Hooray! What don't they tell you? They don't tell you that a 15% return year after year is impossible unless you invest with Bernie Madoff or Charles Ponzi. They don't tell you that in 40 years you'll be dead, and if you're not, you'll be close. They don't tell you that in 40 years your 2.5 million will likely be worth 250,000 in today's dollars, and that a gallon of milk will cost $12. They don't tell you that this method of wealth acceleration is not what they use. They don't tell you plenty, and yet you're supposed to believe it without question. Uncontrollable limited leverage, ULL Part 2. For compound interest to be effective, you need 3 things: time, as measured in years, a favorable yearly investment yield within those years, an invested sum repeatedly invested. These 3 variables make up the latter portion of our slow lane wealth equation. Compound interest equal invested sum times 1 plus yield to the power of time. Although this is a simplified version of a more complicated equation, the point of this analysis is its variable components. Compound interest demands that your investments yield a predictable 10% return per year. Good luck with that 40-year gamble. Have the markets ever lost 20% in 1 year or 40%? They have, and when they do, your hard-earned savings evaporate. You see, wealth acceleration via compound interest is deficient because its variables are deficient. Neither time nor yield can be leveraged or controlled. Again, meet my friend, uncontrollable limited leverage. Can you demand a 2,000% return on your money this year? Can you demand your investment time horizon increase from the standard 40 years to 400 years? Again, the numbers can be leveraged. Your upper limit of time investment horizon is 50 years. Yield is worse, 6%, 8%, or 10%. Yearly investment returns are typical standards. Time is restrained by the years in your life. Yield is restrained by the average yield of typical market investments. And sum is limited because your means of creating income comes from a job, also limited. The only way to subvert the mathematical weakness of compound interest is to start with a large number, and large numbers require leverage. Additionally, like a job, you can't control compound interest. Can you demand your bank pay 25% interest on your savings? Hey, Mr. Slowlane Bank, I demand a 25% yield on my savings account. Can you control the economy? Hey, Mr. Economy, can you guarantee me low unemployment and a business-friendly tax environment? Can you control the average yield of the stock market? Hey, Mr. Stock Market, I'm tired of 8% returns. Can you give me 250% this year? Funny stuff. Can you control anything in this equation other than a furious, labor-intensive search for the best investments to ensure you eke out another marginal 1%? You can't. Why mutual funds and 401ks won't make you rich? In 2008, I went to a fixed income investment seminar given by a major brokerage house. Fixed income investments are instruments like municipal and corporate bonds. Approximately 50 people attended the standing room only seminar. I sat in the back and surveyed the crowd. Remove the gray hair, the socks and sandals combos, the wrinkles, the canes, and the wheelchairs, and what was left? Just me. I was the youngest person in the room, and heck, I'm not even that young anymore. How does a 30-something get in a room full of retirees? The people in the room were slow lane success stories. They used time to accelerate wealth, and what it got them was old age. I don't say that to be mean-spirited to older generations, but to cast light on the point. Compound interest, 401ks, mutual funds, the stock market cannot accelerate wealth fast. According to research and marketing firm the Harrison Group, only 10% of pentamillionaires report that their wealth came from passive investments. Age data was not provided, but you can guess that none of the 10% were under 30. Think about it. Have you ever met a college student who got rich investing in mutual funds or his employer's 401k? How about the guy who bought municipal bonds in 2006 and retired in 2009? I wonder if that guy driving a 1.2 million car can because of his well-balanced portfolio of mutual funds? These people don't exist because the youthful rich are not leveraging 8% returns, but 800%. Has your wealth ever grown by 800% in 1 year? Probably not. But guess what? Mine has, because I'm not shackled to the slow lane wealth equation. My wealth acceleration vehicle doesn't come from the stock market. Yet you've been domesticated to believe that these tools accelerate wealth. Mutual funds, stocks, bonds, 401ks, dollar cost averaging, and compound interest are perfunctory stratagem for wealth acceleration in the slow lane. Unfortunately, without control or leverage, they are impotent wealth accelerators. Buy and hold is dead. In college, I was taught buy and hold was the safe investment strategy that made millions. Buy stocks in solid companies, sit back and wait decades, and voila, I'd be awash with millions. They shove that graph in your face and say $1,000 investment in XYZ company in 1955 would be worth $5 million today. Thankfully, I ignored it. In 1997, I opened a Roth IRA with $1,000 and invested the monies in a growth mutual fund at a major investment firm. Yet I let the professionals manage it for me. For the next decade, I didn't touch it. Essentially, I forgot about the account. In the 10 years that followed, I made over $10 million by following a Fastlane roadmap and leveraging Fastlane strategy. And what about that Roth IRA opened years ago? I never touched it and let it ride the ebbs and flow of the slow lane. Today, that account is worth $698. $698! With inflation, the real purchasing power is $500. My spare change bucket on my kitchen table was a better investment. Had I invested $1 million, I'd have lost more than $400,000. And this is the slow laner's anointed weapon of wealth? Hilarious. Millions worship the slow lane roadmap with buy and hold as Main Street. A Main Street that is decades long, imperiled by hazard, and rarely routes to wealth. I recently heard the slow lane prognosticator proclaim the effectiveness of get rich slow by citing this tasty factoid. If at the end of 1940 you had invested $1,000 in the stocks of the S&P 500, you would now have $1,341,000. So let's examine this fact, assuming it is fact. It's 1940 and assume you're 21 years old. It's 1940 and you somehow got your hands on $1,000, which in today's dollars is about 15,000. You took that 1,000 in 1940's money and did as above. Congratulations! It is now 2010 and you're 91 years old, rich with $1,341,000. Or if you were lucky to get your $1,000 on birth, you'd now be 71 years old. Yes, folks, it's time to get excited. Get rich slow is gonna make you rich. Just ignore your 74-year life expectancy and make sure your wheelchair comes equipped with chrome rims. Seriously, how does anyone get excited over this crap? The slow lane's traitorous relationship with time. Compound interest and the job have the same disease, the sinful and gluttonous consumption of your time while forsaking control. The slow lane has a traitorous relationship between time and wealth. Both variables within the slow lane wealth equation are anchored by time traded in a job, and time traded in market investments. Time becomes the linchpin for wealth that congenitally ties to the mathematical handicaps of mortality. 24 hours in a day and a 50-year work-life expectancy. Yes, getting rich is a function of time. Unless you plan on living forever, this relationship is dubiously foolhardy. Why? Because the trade your time away is to trade your wealth away. Your job demands a 5-day trade of your life for 2. Your investments demand decades of faithful bequeathing. Again, you're trapped mortgaging your most precious asset in lieu of $1 in the hopes of a brighter and freer tomorrow. Examine these pathetically common examples. Assume a 5% savings rate on gross salary and an annual investment yield of 8% per year. We will exclude taxes and inflation. Salary at $25,000 per year, save $1,250 per year, invested over 40 years at 8% is $362,895. Salary at $50,000 per year, save $2,500 per year, invested over 40 years at 8% is $725,791. Salary at $75,000 per year, saved $3,750 per year, invested over 40 years at 8% is $1,088,686. Salary at $100,000 per year, save $5,000 per year, invested over 40 years at 8% is $1,451,581. Salary at $150,000 per year, save $7,500 per year, invested over 40 years at 8% is $2,177,132. Don't get enamored with the numbers. Keep in mind this is 40 years from now. If you're 20 years old, you'll be 60 years old. If you're 30 years old, you'll be 70 years old. If you're 40 years old, you'll be dead. Sorry, but that's beyond life expectancy. So at these ages, does this money and the freedom it buys sound appealing? Also, do you realize that this money will have 50% of today's buying power? 40 years ago, you could buy a car for $3,000 and a loaf of bread for 20 cents. Lest we not forget the other lofty assumptions, gainful employment and the robust economy that has a safe 8% per year. In 2008, the markets lost 50%. I guess the gurus forgot to mention these anomalies. Fox, you don't want millions to accompany your cane. You want it to accompany your youth. Every day, people sacrifice their time for tiny nuggets of wealth, where time is the liability and not the asset. Anything that steals time and doesn't have the power to free time is a liability. Time is life's fuel. Any financial plan that forsakes your primordial fuel without a beneficial return on that fuel is a bad exchange. Within the slow lane, time is mistreated like an effervescent fountain that runs forever. Unfortunately, the mortality rate is 100% and life's prognosis is death. Someday you will die, and hopefully 60% of your time wasn't squandered in a cubicle while your children grew up and your spouse cheated with the yoga instructor. The slow lane is a plan of hope. The slow lane dilutes your control. You're reading this book because you want to control your financial destiny, not put it in the hands of some company or the stock market. If you want to get rich, you have to control and leverage the variables in your financial plan. Any financial plan without control immediately disintegrates into a plan of hope. Hope I don't get laid off. Hope my stocks rebound. Hope I get that promotion. Hope my hours aren't cut. Hope my company doesn't go bankrupt. Hope, hope, and hope. Sorry, hope isn't a plan. The slow lane plan rests in a mathematical prison with time as the warden. To create explosive wealth fast, you must abandon the slow lane formula and its lecherous relationship to time. Wealth is built with time as an asset, not as a liability. Yet the slow laners' reaction to uncontrollable limited leverage is predictable. They embark on an errant fight against the one variable they perceive as controllable, their intrinsic value. The slow laner argues, I must make more money, and that fight is fought futilely with an expensive education. Chapter Summary: Fastlane Distinctions. Slow lane wealth is improbable due to uncontrollable limited leverage. The first variable in the slow lane wealth equation evolves from a job that factors to intrinsic value that equates to your nominal value for each unit of your life traded. Intrinsic value is the value of your time set by the marketplace and is measured in units of time, either hourly or yearly. In the slow lane, intrinsic value, regardless of its time measurement, is numerically inhibited because there are only 24 hours in the day for the hourly worker, and the average lifespan is 74 years for the salaried worker. Like the slow laner's primary income source, a job, the slow laner's wealth acceleration vehicle, compound interest, is also packed to time. Like a job, compound interest is mathematically futile and cannot be manipulated. You cannot force-feed the market or the economy to give you phenomenal returns year after year. Wealth cannot be accelerated when pegged to mathematics based on time. Time is your primordial fuel, and it should not be traded for money. Your time should not be an expendable resource for wealth because wealth itself is composed of time. Your mortality makes time mathematically retarded for wealth creation. If you don't control the variables inherent in your wealth universe, you don't control your financial plan.